Happy Sunday. Let's find a comfy seat. We're going to have two blankets handy for this practice. So if you want to ensure that those are available, and then align spinal column and settle in, and finding your way into some nice fluid cycles of breath and allowing for a clear development of the delineation between your day and your practice. Feeling into how the cycles of breath impact the alignment of the spinal column and allowing for the physical adjustments so that you find your way deeper and deeper into stillness, stability, and integration. We'll give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. Eventually, when it feels appropriate, we'll allow the eyes to open and receive some light. And let's walk ourselves forward to the point where we can kind of use the arms as kickstands. So um, get that hand placement relatively active, looking to load the hips a little bit here. And then we'll just walk our way to one side or the other, whatever side feels you feel most drawn to first. Think about anchoring down in that opposite hip. So if you've walked to the left, anchor down in the right hip. If you've walked to the right, anchor down in the left hip. And then we'll walk back to the knee and bring your spine back into alignment. We'll walk ourselves back out towards the middle and then to the opposite side. And again, if you walk to the right, we anchor in the left hip. If you walk to the left, you anchor in the right hip. Feeling into the body here as we add a little twist. And then eventually we'll walk back to the knee, reorient towards the middle, and let's switch the foot positioning. So whatever foot you have in front, we'll reverse, reestablish your integration, and let's walk forward. And then we'll walk to the first direction. Again, you can choose if it feels better to go to a different side this time, you're welcome to. Or start on a different side. We'll hit them both. Anchor in your opposite hip. Looking to kind of take some oblique space, some lateral edge space. Feeling into our body's ability to breathe. And then we'll come back to the knee. Reorient towards neutral. And we'll walk back out. And then over to that second side. And think about landing and settling expanding our lateral chain, utilizing our breath to create space. When you feel balance left to right, when it feels like it would feel good to come back, let's walk back to the knee. And land. Drop the chin to the sternum. As the chin drops, turn the palms up and retract the scapula. And then think about bringing some energy to that medial edge, thumb edge of your hands, almost like you're getting extra external rotation through the shoulder capsule as you retract the scapula. And then think about drawing the base of the cervical spine back, like you're trying to pull. It's almost like the head is getting pulled up, but you're pulling the neck itself back. And stay in this integrated alignment. And then we'll lift the chin, drop the shoulders, recreate that base space. And let's head to a seated position. So legs extended out in front of us in the staff. A different seated position. Find your version of staff. Think about that anterior posterior neutrality. Let's just find our way into a nice little seated forward fold. Nice thing is here we've created some lateral space. So note how that lateral space plays into your body's opportunity to expand. Think about where shortness or restriction is manifesting, and then try to send your inhale breath there. Even if the restriction is in the hamstrings, try to send your breath, the inhale portion of your breath, to your hamstrings if that's happening. If it's happening in the back, it's an easier thing to do. And we'll give ourselves just about 50 more seconds here. Elongating the spine, anchoring the sacrum, and using your breath as a tool of expansion. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll walk ourselves back into seat. Try to get the reintegration of the spine so that we can get nice and vertical. And then we're going to go back to an easy pose, cross-legged. Think about the left heel coming closer first, right heel finding its way into the space where you feel most able to integrate. And then we're going to take ourselves into a fold. Ideally here, we've freed up a little space around the hip hinge. We've freed up a little space in that posterior chain. And now we're going to ask the hips for more room as we find our way into this fold. If you'd like, there's an opportunity for your blankets here. You can take those, kind of fold them block style or to your height and use them as a little supportive prop at whatever height is most appropriate and most beneficial for you. Try to draw your breath, the inhale portion of your breath, down through your belly and into your hips so that you're really anchoring the expansiveness into the hinge and into the lateral chain on both sides of the body. For nearly all of us, this is probably one of the most impactful shapes that we could include in a daily practice. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here on this first side. When it feels appropriate, you can walk yourself back up towards seat, and we swap to the second side. Once you've integrated the neutral version of the shape, then we can take ourselves forward into that folded space. And the reason this really is so impactful, we ask a ton of our hip flexors. The shape asks a ton of our hip flexors, but we also ask a ton of our hip flexors. And we tend to put our hip flexors in very short positions when we're seated. In traditional seats, in a chair, on a couch, in a car. And so this is really prescriptive in expanding that shortness. The additional benefit of this shape is that if you were able to release through the hip flexor restriction, you can start to address quadratus laborum, QL musculature, and expand the tissue supporting the spinal column so that when you graduate past the hips, there's more room to be made available. And we will give ourselves just about 50 more seconds here in this second side. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's walk ourselves back into a neutral seat. We'll extend our legs. And one last time from staff, thinking about the hip hinge, the anterior hip crease, the neutrality of the spine, let's take ourselves forward into a seated fold. Allow yourself to just relax. Once again, the props are available to you. If you'd like to have a supported hold, it's there for you. And if you feel good without that support, if you can relax without that support, it's probably a better way to describe that. Settle into that. In the middle of a forest path, there's a little clearing where a traveler has stopped, paused, and laid out a brief lunch. As he's sitting in this clearing and it has this beautiful view down this hill of this meadow, another traveler comes along. These traveler to traveler interactions don't happen that frequently on the trail. So when they do, they're usually memorable. And this second traveler comes and she sits down, and the two of them enjoy a shared human connection and a meal together. Last 60 seconds here. Two of them could have asked the typical questions: where are they headed? What are they doing out on the trail? And the first traveler launches into this grand adventure that he is on. This adventure to discover unknown lands, untraveled upon trails. And after some time, the two pack up and head in different directions. When it feels appropriate for you, walk ourselves back into staff. Make sure you have your blankets easily accessible. Then let's head on to our backs. And settle here for a moment so you can really feel the spine, the hips, the neutrality available to both. If you're feeling any restrictiveness in the physicality of your body, let's send our breath there. If you're feeling any restrictiveness in your respiration, let's offer ease, gentleness. And we'll inhale our knees to a bent position so the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling if they're not already. And we'll start a little dynamic twist. Kind of exploring how the hips feel here. Ideally, we've opened up a little bit of hip range. Our goal is going to be to utilize that hip range. The next time that the knees fall over to the left, let's allow them to settle there. And so as you land, let the arms find cactus or T. Maybe before you do that, determine if you'd like to have a prop. Lots of opportunities for props here. They can come in between the knees. They can come underneath that lateral edge. You could also use a prop to increase the twist by just adding it on top of the top leg and allowing for that subtle bit of extra weight to help rotate. I'll land in this twist and really think about expanding through the lateral chain on both sides of the body and getting as much length as possible in the spine. So the hips are as free as we can get them in the moment, right? And so hopefully we have a little bit more rotational capacity. And then we're going to lengthen from that rotation. So the spine gets long here. As our traveler kind of packs up his stuff and looks out at the horizon in the direction that he's headed. He sees an obstacle that he has known would be coming, but is also been dreading. It's a dry, barren stretch of land where there are almost no available resources. And scorching hot temperatures. And so as he takes each step closer to this barren land, the grassland that he's been walking in starts to become more and more dry, and then less and less vegetated. Last 30 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Resettle and integrate the spine. And then let's grab both of our blankets. You can either do hot dog fold here or a roll, whatever's easiest for you, probably works best. We're just going to allow for lateral edge support with the blankets. So bottoms of the feet coming together, knees falling out wide. We want the blankets to be cradling us. We want to feel supported here. We'll think about finding a position for the props where they can do that for you. Eventually, the footprints begin to be left in sand. And the sand starts to become deeper. The traveler's footsteps begin to become heavier. The heat continues to intensify, not only radiating down from the sun, but reflecting off the sand below. The traveler's resources continue to dwindle, particularly the available water. Thinking here about how you can maintain that elongation of your spine. Of the respiration can be a part of the physicality of your shape, softening you and expanding you at the same time. And we'll give ourselves 60 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And let the knees fall to the second side. Remembering that you can utilize your props here either to support you or expand the twist, whatever offers you the most beneficial impact. Eventually, the traveler's water is completely depleted. And the unrelenting sun is far from depleted. The traveler's steps are nearly unbearably heavy as he crests this dune. And at the peak of this dune, gazing down into the next valley, he sees what he had hoped would be there: a well. He makes his way down into the valley. And when he arrives, there's a man sitting next to the well. With a weapon. Anyone who's experienced T.E. Lawrence's story knows how valuable and how protected these wells in the middle of the desert can be. So he cautiously approaches and asks for a drink. There's a sinister tone in this man's response. He says, "You can have a drink from my well, if and only if you tell me something that you regret." Our traveler not wanting to share personal details about his life with a stranger, declines and begins to walk past the well and out into the desert on the other side. And this man sitting next to the well calls out to him and says, "The further you go in that direction, the further you're going to have to crawl back to me for a drink. You might as well take it now." The traveler freezes, assesses his own situation, his hydration level, his lack of liquid resources, and reconsiders. Remember here as you are breathing that we are looking to elongate the spine, not just settle into the rotation.
ourselves about 45 more seconds here on the second side. Deep pulls of breath that allow for length in the spine. And eventually, when it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Settle back into that integration. Let the bottoms of the feet come together and let your props once again catch the edges of the body as you let the knees fall out wide. And so the traveler turns around and he says, "Okay, I once trusted someone more than I should have." And as he says that, this man guarding the well, his eyes light up. And the traveler can almost feel his memories getting pulled from his mind. The man guarding the well cracks a smile and says, "I knew it." People who you trust are always letting you down, aren't they? And almost as if he's in a trance, this traveler turns around and he sits down at the edge of the well with this man. And this man starts telling stories, connecting ideas about all the failures and flaws of humankind. As this man's talking, the sun starts to set. And eventually the moon takes its place in the sky. Using your respiration to elongate the spine as the hips fall into this supported external rotation. Thinking about how you can impact your nervous system through your breath as your body is held and supported here.
Eventually, the sun takes its turn in the cycle and replaces the moon in the sky. The old man by the well continues to end tales of human transgressions. The traveler, with each tale, becomes more and more enthralled. Days begin to pass. Days turn into weeks. Weeks to months. Months to years. And now these two men sit at the edge of the well, talking about the failures of humans. Last 60 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Let's take our props out of the way for a moment. And we're going to extend our heels towards the corners of the mat. They can go beyond the corners of the mat, but kind of a wide space here. And the arms are going to reach up and overhead so that you're making kind of like a big starfish shape. The goal here is to just be expansive, to feel expansive. So don't worry so much about the positioning and being exact. Just try to make yourself big and then breathe into the center of that. Try to feel the entire perimeter of your space and how you've made that as large as is possible as you breathe from the center and allow that breath to expand outward.
We'll just give ourselves 60 more seconds just to feel this expansiveness. If there are points of tightness, areas of restriction that start to crop up, see if you can use your tool of respiration as expansion to relax and encourage release in those areas. Eventually, we'll relax that expansiveness. See if you can keep that energetic space and bring the knees back to a bent position, kneecaps towards the ceiling, and just allow for a little final bit of movement here. Just enough to reintegrate into the space you've created, to absorb the space you've created. Make that space yours. One more time in each direction. And then eventually coming back to a point of stillness so that you can ask yourself if there's anything that you might need, want, or benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, offering that to yourself. If you can make an impact in your practice, allowing for that. And then if you feel like you've offered everything you need, if you feel like you have everything you need when you're ready for stillness, let's offer that stillness to our body when you're ready. One day, as these two men sit at the edge of the well, exchanging wicked thoughts about the human race, a traveler appears on the dune in front of them and slowly starts to come towards them. Time is right, melting into your version of Shavasana.
Slowly but surely, this wanderer makes her way down the dune. She approaches the well, and she asks, "What are you doing here?" And they reply in unison, "Waiting to teach fools the hard lessons of life." And she turns to a familiar face and she says, "That's strange, because when I met you years ago, you were on a great adventure. It's sad to see you become stuck here at someone else's well." Start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes, up into our wrists and our ankles, up through our forearms, into our elbows, and into our knees, shoulders and hips, neck and head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of our body will move and we'll utilize that movement, transition back into a seat. And as we find our seat, we'll realign our spine, let our eyes close, and just feel into the rhythm of our breath. And with your next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days and beyond, you be on the lookout to ensure that you're never lost or trapped by someone else's smallness, and see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you being here. Have a beautiful week. Love the heck out of you, and I will see you soon.